Okay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome. We've got a few less than we have had in the past. I think we had up to 110 or so organisations in one of our meetings a couple of months ago. But the fantastic news is that there's a whole lot of us back at work in the field. So we've got a spread of people across the sector today, but there's a whole lot less than we've had in the past, which on the whole is a very positive thing. We'll probably just look to tweak maybe the time to do the next one. So we capture a few more people, so might have a crack at a Thursday afternoon or a Friday morning or something like that. But thanks everyone for being with us this morning. So I also want to introduce you to Luke Parker, who's with OV on the call as well. So if you can give everyone a wave, Luke. I'm sure most people are familiar with Luke now.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you. And we've also got Robin in the background too, just to help us out with chat and posts and everything else as well. Also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're all working and living, as well as the outdoor natural spaces we enjoy. For my family, we live in Eltham. These custodians are the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations. I recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community, and I offer my humble respect and thanks to elders past, present and emerging. Also like to acknowledge the support of a number of government agencies and organisations, including DELP, Parks Victoria, Sport and Recreation Victoria, DJPR. And also like to welcome one of our board members today, Richard Thornton. He's on the call as well, and he's just become and being appointed the Deputy Chair of Outdoors Victoria. So thanks, Richard, for being here today. Great. So a couple of pieces of news that we'll get into in a minute, but also just wanting to welcome Emma Watts, who's on the call today, Director at Parks Victoria. So thanks, Emma, very much for being there. And we'll be with you in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. And also Lisa's assisting. So thanks, Lisa, for also being here with us today. So a couple of pieces of news that's emerging is that Department of Education have let us and Australian Camps Association know that potentially today they may be releasing the school operations guide with the permission for multiple school groups to be on the same piece of real estate. So the same campsite, for example. So just wanting to let everyone know that that could be on the horizon, which would be fantastic, and that's something that Australian Camps Association and OV have both been working on for a little while. I've seen you've been muted, Richard.
Guidance going to be for 2021?
That's one thing that I'll check. I've got another little message here before, so Richard, I'll check that in a minute, and I'll definitely come back to you and everyone else.
Sorry, didn't want to interrupt you, Flo.
No, all good. So that's hopefully one good piece of news, and we'll obviously get Robin from OV to circulate that on a bulletin out to the 2,000+ subscribers, so everyone can know about that immediately in the fine detail. Another couple of pieces, and Emma might have something more to say, but just to let everyone know too that it wasn't the newsletter the other day, just around the Garrwood Land Management Plan is out for public consultation now, and that runs through until the 24th of January. And there's a number of information sessions for everyone that wants to be involved in that and learn a little more. Yeah, please check back on our newsletter on that front. But also, Robin just popped in the chat. Thanks, Robin. That particular link in chat. So you can jump into chat now, which is at the bottom of your screen, and pop that across to your email or whatever else to get into that later on as well. There's also the from Sport Climbing Victoria and Outdoors Victoria, been doing work now since February on climbing governance in Victoria and exploring whether for want of a better word, rock and rope Victoria or a climbing type peak is something that's needed in Victoria. From all the information and consultation we've had so far, that is the case. And there's now been 3 main recommendations put forward. So that was also in the newsletter as well. But I'm sure that Robin will pop up a link in the chat too, because we really want as many people as possible across our community to quickly digest that report. We know there's a heck of a lot going on in everyone's business and organisation at the moment, but so 15, 20 minutes through the report and then into 3 or 4 minutes on the survey, which is on page 39 of that report. It's embedded in there for a reason, so that we hopefully motivate as many people to have at least a skim read of that report, so they can give us some decent feedback on what they think about the options and what could be the further detail around those options, because there's not a whole lot of detail in there on purpose, because it's just a draft. There'll be another piece of work that comes out very early next year around the final type suggestion, and there's a little more work to go yet. So please give us your feedback on that and pass it on to other colleagues too. That'd be much appreciated, so we can get as much expert feedback back in. There's also in our newsletter last week a really important piece from Australian Camps Association, and it's an inclusion guide. So it's really around that whole piece of making sure that your staff and partners in the organisation are fully up to speed on what is the latest in that area, and it's obviously a really important piece for our future. So please, again, take a look at that inclusion guide. You can get that straight from the ACA website, or you can jump back into our newsletter from last Thursday.
Robin's put it in chat as well.
Thank you very much, Luke. Is there anything else in there that we need to address right now?
No, Robin's just put all the links of the various things that you've spoken about.
Fantastic. Okay, so we might head across to Emma and get a bit of an update on what's going on at Parks Victoria.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to start with the exciting stuff. So you may have seen last week that we had some significant funding announcements, a record funding announcement of $131 million all up, which is pretty exciting from our perspective. A huge challenge to deliver all the projects that sit within that. But yeah, really, really exciting opportunity for us and for nature-based tourism. Just a really quick breakdown. I won't go through every single element of funding, but the PROM has received $6 million. So we're going to build a predator-proof fence there, a visitor information centre, some eco-friendly pods. So yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff. Car ride service, visitor information hub, a whole lot of different elements there that will go towards making the PROM, I guess, a little bit more visitor friendly in terms of being able to disperse visitation a little bit better, but also protecting the flora and fauna that are there as well. So that's incredibly exciting. We had some urban and regional park announcements as well. So some of the parks that will be upgraded will be Albert Park, Braeside Park, Brimbank Park, Dandenong Ranges, some in the Mornington Peninsula. There's a lot. So, it's $52 million for urban park upgrades. So I won't go into all of the details of that. There was a media release that was sent out, or there were a couple that were sent out by the minister. So feel free to have a look at those. As always, reach out to us and we can share that information with you if you need some more info. There's also, in terms of regional Victoria, we got some funding for stage 1 of Falls to Hotham Alpine Crossing hiking experience. So that's really exciting. $10 million for the Murray River Adventure Trail. We got an additional $5.2 1.24 million, I think it was, for Grampians Peaks Trail activation of some trailheads, and another 5 million for Brambuck Cultural Centre. So that's really exciting, and looking forward to seeing Brambuck thriving again and getting up and running. There was also some money in there for bushfire recovery, so we'll continue to to invest in that space to get those regions back to where they need to be. That includes $3.5 million for eco pods at Cape Conran, another $2 million for camping spots in East Gippsland, another almost $3 million for visitor facilities at Malakuta, and Point Hicks Lighthouse also got 3.85 million. So that's all that stuff is incredibly exciting. It's going to make for a much better visitor experience in those areas, and obviously, for our LTOs and our tourism industry, it'll only enhance the offering for your visitors. So very, very exciting stuff. Bushfire recovery. So we're still working through that. We've managed to get camping at Cape Conran returned in time for the spring school holidays, so that was really well received by visitors and local. Obviously, everybody was itching to get out at that point in time. We send out a media release about the Cape Conran reopening, which we can share with people if they haven't got it. We also presented an update recently, which some of you may have sat on and presented some more details. But if you didn't get that information or weren't at that session, then we can resend it again. So as always, my little trusty sidekick Lisa is on the call here, so feel free to just shoot a message to Lisa or email our tourism email address, tourism@parks.vic.gov.au, and we can send you through any more detail on any of these subjects if you require them. We'll also be sending some information out to LTOs shortly around bushfire safety and your responsibilities and legalities around that, so keep an eye out for that in your inbox. In terms of restriction update, I won't dwell too much on this because I think we all pretty much know the joyous news that has come through in a couple of announcements recently. So yeah, look, we're almost back to a bit of normality, which is really exciting in time for summer and for Christmas. So tour groups are limited to 20 people indoors and 50 people outdoors at the moment. And then the tour transport one, which we often get questions about, a group limited of up to 20 people from any number of households can be in an enclosed vehicle or in an open vehicle up to 50 people. So that's a massive development from where we've been in the last couple of months. So really exciting. And then, as Andrew mentioned, the school groups are slightly different. So school group numbers aren't capped if they're from a single school. So I think that's, it's a massive shift for all of Victoria, and, particularly for our LTOs as well, being able to operate in a more normal capacity. In terms of our parks, they're pretty much now all open with a few exceptions. So the 12 Apostles has got some visitor caps, so sitting at around 280 people at any one time, just to help with the physical distancing there. The caves that we're able to regulate the traffic in, they're closed, and where physical distancing is an issue, such as Thousand Steps and the Redwoods Forest in Warburton, they are still closed, but we are looking at reopening those in the coming days. We just need to make sure that we've got COVID safe plans in place. So I haven't got a time frame exactly on that, but we're working towards that at the moment. So that's all exciting news. Mount Buffalo Chalet, if you haven't seen that, we've invited operators to submit an expression of interest to provide a cafe at Mount Buffalo Chalet. So it's really nice to see the old lady getting some life breathed into her. It's a stunning property and a stunning location, and yeah, hopefully some people are able to put through those applications and really do justice to her. So the first stage of the EOI opened last Thursday, and that goes until Sunday, 31st of January. So we want people to send through their vision for the cafe in that time. The information is on our website, but again, if you are interested and you didn't receive the information, you can shoot us an email and we'll send it through to you. Another recent development, the Blowhole platform at Hepburn Regional Park is now officially open. So we received $250,000 to complete a new viewing area and some visitor access sites. So I went and had a look at that last week, and it's looking pretty special, particularly after some rain. So that's really good. It's been closed since 2016 due to flooding. So it's nice to see that that part of the world open again. Andrew's touched on the Gary Word Landscape Management Plan, so I won't go into too much detail on that. I guess the Engage link Engage Vic link has been shared. It is open for public comment until the 24th of January. You know, we're really encouraging all areas of the public that use, you know, use Gary Word in some way to get their views through. So absolutely would encourage you to do that if you, you know, if you have an interest in that particular park. So yeah, there's been a lot of work put into developing that draft plan. So we really do want your feedback on that. And then it's in the same area, so Grampians Peaks Trail, so that's progressing at the moment. So we're working through stage 2 at the moment. So 1 camp and 33 kilometres opened in 2015, but we're looking at the next stage opening in autumn 2021. We will open some short sections for day walks by the end of 2020, but we're looking at autumn next year for the whole 160 kilometre track, which is really exciting. So by the time it's complete, there'll be 12 new campsites, including hiker huts at 2 hiker camps, exclusively bookable by LTOs. So that's really positive as well. And from end to end, the hike will take 13 days. So that's for the very committed hikers out there. We did also do a presentation on that recently in our industry update. We can send through that presentation if you weren't able to be a part of that. Coming up next year, we will be having a workshop, and this is to flow on from Andrew's comment about inclusion earlier on. So it'll be about accessible tourism in parks. So it's going to be a really practical workshop with lots of ideas and information on how you can improve accessibility in your business. So, you know, prior to the pandemic, accessible tourism was worth about $8 billion, and we hope it'll get back to at least that in the coming, you know, in the coming years. So it's a really exciting area, you know, to be able to get people into parks. There's lots of developments that have happened over the last couple of years that have really made our parks more accessible. So, you know, we will send out some information about that session, but it's on the 4th of February 2021. So we'd love to see you all there. An update on the Lto Promo videos that I think we spoke of the last couple of times. So we're still working through that. We're now able to get back into parks and do some filming. So we're hoping to have those videos released by the end of the year or early January. We'll be shooting them out via our social media channels. We'd really love it if people could share them on their social channels as well. So, you know, the more we can get the word out, the more impact we'll have, and the more people will be able to get a sense of the benefits of using an LTO. So, so thank you to those who've already sent us footage. If you haven't and you have some, we would still love to receive it. So thank you. And just lastly, just a little bit of housekeeping. Just a reminder that if you haven't updated your contact details in Park Connect, then please do. This is the channel that we use to shoot out all information to you, and we rely on that information being correct and up to date. So if it's not, you may be missing out on some valuable information. So if you haven't updated your contact details, please do that. If you've got any questions about how to use that, Lisa can help you with that. So send us an email through to tourism or chat to Lisa through the chat. That's probably about it from us. It's really nice to have some really positive, exciting announcements. That, you know, that funding announcement is, yeah, is massive. And, you know, I know the government's really keen to drive tourism and visitation, which is exciting. We thought it could go either way with, you know, the government not having a great deal of funding this year due to COVID. But, you know, we've been fortunate that they've seen the value of nature-based tourism and in getting people to travel within Victoria and the economic benefits that drives. So, yeah, massive excitement at Parks Vic to receive information about record funding announcements. That's about it from me.
Thanks very much, Emma. That's great. Luke, have we got anything in chat? Otherwise, I encourage anyone who would like to chat to pop something in chat for us.
Nothing at this stage, just some links from Lisa just regarding some of the different areas that Emma spoke about, such as the Mount Buffalo Chalet expressions of interest, the links there, the landscape management plan, the Cape Conran media release. So that's all in chat. If you'd like further information, feel free to click on those links.
Fantastic. And Emma, just on the funding announcement, so will that money be expended and those particular projects, is that to happen over the next sort of 1.5 years or so?
Oh, look, some of them they've all got different timeframes. So the Prom Sanctuary project, for example, is over 3 years.
Right.
So some of them will, commence this, I guess the smaller ones will commence earlier, and then others, something like the prom needs a really significant amount. Obviously, we've done a little bit to put in a funding bid. We've got some planning done, but something like that needs a really significant amount of planning and, investment over a couple of years. So they vary project by project.
Okay, no worries. When it comes to the LTO campaign, thanks for keeping us up to date on that, because I think we're all pretty keen to support. And there's other peaks that I'm obviously connected to that will be really keen to echo whatever you're going to be putting out. So if you were putting a bet on, would you say it's late December or is it early January?
Oh, look, I'd say we're definitely working towards late December. There's just a few bits and pieces, a few ducks we need to get in a row. So that's definitely what we're working towards. But plan B is kind of earlier in January. But we'll communicate closer to the time. I think, as you said, you've got another catch up before Christmas, so we'll definitely provide an update there. And of course, as with anything that we do, we'll send it out, to everybody in some sort of email or EDM, so that they can share on their channels. So it won't be sliding out there with no fanfare. We'll definitely be communicating it so that people can share.
Yeah, for sure. We're just for you and Lisa and the others on the call, we're probably looking at most likely Thursday afternoon so we can capture a few more people because everyone's now flat out. It may be at 4 o'clock or something like that, maybe on the 10th of December.
Okay. Yep. I'll chat with Jared and one of us will definitely be available.
Yeah, beaut. Thank you for that. One thing that Parks has done that's been handy is the eradication of park fees for LTOs at the moment. I'm just wondering if because there's also, from my understanding, an LTO review that's happening in the background more through DELP.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so DELP is the organisation that is making the decisions on this. So we certainly, put up in January a suggestion for fees to be waived, pretty much straight after the bushfires. But it had to go through that government process to get approved, which took some time. So anything like that, we are, I guess, for that particular sort of work, we sit under the auspices of DELP, and are guided by them in how we're going to manage that moving forward. So yes, we've certainly offered those fee waivers for 2020. We extended licenses by 12 months as part of that support package. But as to what that looks like moving forward, that will sit with DELP to decide. So we'll absolutely inform people as soon as we can. But yeah, I don't sort of have any further update on LTOs at the moment.
So is that for the calendar year, Emma? So technically from the 1st of Jan, fees may be charged again?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So with the review, I know there was a number of people in it at DELP that were looking into that. Have you got any more of an update on further consultation with LTOs?
No, so DELP would be leading that. So look,
I'll check back in and then come back.
So Will Guthrie would be leading that. We certainly make recommendations up to them, but at the end of the day, they are the ones who do that consultation, make decisions. Obviously, they manage a lot of outdoor spaces themselves, so they make those decisions that are then sort of trickle down to us.
Yeah, great. Okay. No worries. I'll just for everyone.
Can I just make a comment there? Yeah. I just posted some stuff. I think we should be chasing DELP to waive the fees until after the review. The fee system isn't equitable across everybody, considering the number of illegals and people excluded from paying fees, or with fee ceilings and stuff. I think I'll put a post up there. I think a good case could be made to continue to waive the fees until the permit system is reviewed and a permit system that provides a level playing field can be developed. Yeah, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, David, we certainly recognise, recognise the challenges with people doing things that, aren't officially, running through the program and aren't officially licensed, that's absolutely a challenge for us. And we certainly try to do some of that sort of compliance work with the compliance team that we have. So it is an ongoing challenge for us. And we also recognise the challenge with those caps, and it's something that we're certainly looking at from our end. And then we would make recommendations up to DELP as to how we would like to manage that. But at the end of the day, as I said, that sort of goes up through DELP to the Minister's Office for endorsement there. So look, I would certainly encourage you, through Outdoors Vic as an advocate, to make some recommendations up to DELP about that. We, absolutely encourage you to do that.
Thanks, Emma. And thanks, David, too. I've had a number of sort of voices come to me, so I'll check back in with the good people at DELP, Victoria and Will and co. So and then come back to everyone else, and then we can, on the 10th of December, maybe have more of a chat then as to what I discover. So thanks, Emma, on that front. Luke, anything else at your end?
So there was a couple of questions that Dave just spoke about. So that was covered then. The other question that I've got is one for Emma, just asking whether some of the rebuilds with the eco pods at Cape Conran will be built with sort of future bushfires in mind at this stage, was just a question that has also come through.
In terms of being, bushfire management overlays and being compliant with that, is that?
From what I can gather, that was the question.
Absolutely. I mean, we couldn't build them without that in this point in time. Every piece of construction that we're doing at the moment has to have some sort of bushfire management overlay, and we need to build within those guidelines. So absolutely, it needs to be built within those regulations. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. So I think I've touched on a number of items that I needed to, and really just wanted to open the floor while we've got Emma and Lisa here as well, just in case there's anything else for those good people, because I'm sure they've got a number of things on to squeeze us in today. So please speak up now or forever hold your peace until the 10th of December for Emma and Lisa.
I've just posted another two comments here. One is that activity booking sites, in a lot of areas, some areas you can book an activity site through local rangers. You may have to in some cases. In other areas, there's no booking system. And under COVID systems, getting too many operators in the same place. In fact, just from a quality and safety point of view, I think we need to look at a stepped booking system, perhaps, and it needs to be locally managed. I'll put my comments there. The other one is myself and others have been noticing an increasing lack of adherence to the adventure activity standards and PV local regulations as players try to recoup some of their losses. If particularly with group size, leader ratios, things of that nature, if we have an accident and we're found as an industry and land managers to not be managing this, and it was widespread, which it may or may not be, we could end up with a hotel quarantine style publicity issue for our industry. So I think that's another thing that needs to be addressed.
So David, we'll capture those comments. Lisa, I might ask you to do that and we can take them offline and have a look at them more in depth. I guess one of the challenges for us, around, the COVID restrictions and COVID guidelines, our rangers actually don't have the authority to enforce anything in that regard. It's under the direction of the Chief Health Officer, and our rangers don't sit under that. And, I know that's a government technicality. So we can, if we see people that are not socially distancing, we can certainly, encourage them to spread out and to move along. But our first port of call, if things get a little bit hairy, is to call the police, and they are the ones that have the jurisdiction to enforce that. So that's what happened earlier in the year with 1,000 Steps, when we had an opening up of metro parks, and the 1,000 Steps was absolutely inundated, and we could not get people to physically distance. We had to call the police, and in the end, we had to close the park, and it's still closed. So that's our I guess, our fallback if things do get a little bit hairy. But look, we can certainly look at, at trying to make sure that people are absolutely aren't, are following those ratios. It's, that's something that we can look to enforce, because, that is within our license guidelines.
Thanks, Emma.
The adventure activity standard and the Parks Victoria guidelines that I was more looking at, rather than the COVID one.
Yeah, David, I think I agree with you that one of the biggest risks for us as an industry is people behaving in a way that is outside of our guidelines. But I think we as an industry have got to accept some of the responsibility around that as well, because they are still guidelines. And every time we kind of push for some level of accreditation or process that makes those either statutory or at least stepping in the right direction for people having to adhere to them, then the industry seems to push back as well. So we've got to be prepared, I think, as a whole industry to say those sorts of standards have got to become compulsory for providers. In Victoria, because Parks Victoria rely on those standards, that takes providers to a point where they ought to fit in with those. So I think as an industry, Andrew through OCA, we've got to take a view as a whole industry across the whole of the country that safety is not a thing that is voluntary. It's a compulsory part of what we do. And there is nothing that we can do at the moment to say, well, as long as you're hitting the right balance in this, that's okay. There's no legal fallback on it. And sooner or later, we're going to have something that is going to impact all of us if we don't get our act together. And that's my personal view rather than the Outdoors Victoria view, Andrew.
No, and Richard, I actually said that, in our last session that, in the same way that we would expect LTOs to have all the safety equipment required to keep their visitors safe, we would expect them to adhere to these sort of guidelines around COVID in order to keep their visitors safe. It's just an extension of the things that, LTOs need to do when they take visitors into a park.
Thank you. And I think that's, that whole piece that Richard was talking about, that's something that's well and truly on the OCA agenda for, a national summit for the future of our industry. And some of the people on this call will be very welcome at that summit, because that's definitely our next piece after this very challenging year. So no, thanks for your input there. One thing, Emma, I might flag for December 10 is just around if there's, from your fire emergency management area, it'd be wonderful to know if there's any kind of heads up that can be provided to us around potential, temporary park closures or whatever else as we head into fire season.
Yeah, so basically just our plans for fire season, an update on that. We can bring someone on to do that.
That'd be wonderful.
Yep, we can do that, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very, very much for Emma and Lisa for being here. And I will just open it to the floor if there's anything else, Luke, that you've identified, and then we might let Lisa and Emma head off.
So there's a comment there from Dave, but it's one that I think Lisa has taken down, and they'll have a look into that, and then we might get an update back on that in the next meeting. Might be the best way for that one. Outside of that, nothing at this stage. The new designation website for Mount Buffalo has been launched as well. So visit mountbuffalo.com.au. So feel free to check.
That's a destination. It was my spelling, yeah.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, that's all right.
It's a big fancy website, and we'd like comments so that we can make it better. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And then in terms of other questions, just a question: are you saying that campsites may be able to co-host in 2021? I think that one's for you, Emma.
Yes, sorry, it's probably what I mentioned at the start about DET, but Emma, go for it.
Yeah, look, from our perspective, I would have to double check that one. Yeah, happy for you to comment on the DET perspective, but we would have to double check how that's all progressing at our end, but we'll take that offline.
Perfect, thank you.
Usually it's the departments that sync at roughly the same time on that. So as soon as we know anything else, of course, it'll be out on a bulletin later today if that does happen today. as Richard asked a good question, whether it's to be right now or whether it's 2021, we'll definitely let everyone know immediately. There was nothing in the extra detail when I checked before.
Yeah, and just one other aspect, is there anything that for the people that are here that you would like us to follow up or look into to cover for next meeting? So we're always happy to go out and research or find people that can answer your questions. So if there's any particular topics or concepts you'd love to hear from someone about, feel free to pop them in chat, and we'll be happy to try and follow up and maybe get someone for the 10th to come in and talk regarding that concept as well. So if there's anything, feel free to put it in chat, and we'll try our best to find out some more information for you.
Perhaps someone to remind us all that we need to think about, are you okay, and are our staff okay? Yeah, people will be under a lot of pressure coming out of COVID. They were in a lot of pressure in COVID. So perhaps a short session on looking after ourselves, and making sure we have friends and talk to each other, on a personal, mental and physical health point of view as an industry might be worth including.
Fantastic. Thank you,
David. That's a great bit of feedback. And we did have an offer, and then that particular person's got busy with work, which is great, because otherwise we may have actually had someone with us today. So yeah, really good point, David. We'll definitely follow that up for next time. Thank you. Well, I think we might leave that. We've got a little bit of work on, which is wonderful. I know Richard's out in the field tomorrow as well. David's off this afternoon. Debbie said there's work going on there. So a lot of upside, and we just need a whole lot more workforce, from what I'm hearing now too. So very best of luck to everyone. Yeah, we look forward to catching up with you in a couple of weeks' time. All the very, very best. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Emma.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you.
Lisa. Thank you all.